Star Wars is a franchise that keeps on growing. With 47 years of content, there's been some good, there's been some bad, and there's been a whole lot of mid stuff that I want to rank in this video. The rules are simple. I'm here to rank everything that Star Wars came out with, or mostly everything that I have reviewed. Now, because there's so much stuff in Star Wars, your favorite show may not be in the top 3 or top 5 or top 10. That's okay. My ranking is going to be completely different from your ranking. That's okay. Just don't be mean about it in the comments, because we all have our own different rankings. One last thing, as Star Wars keeps on growing and they're adding in new things, my opinions on certain shows and movies do change over time. And that kind of makes it difficult to sort of make it easier to definitively rank some of these things. So if there's a show or a movie or whatever that's below another thing that you don't like, that's not me saying that that thing's better than another thing, or vice versa. That's just me trying to place everything in a list, in a numbered list. With all that explanation out of the way, what is last place? Coming in last place is a holiday special, and do I really need to explain why this is last place? Do I really need to sit here and talk about why I hate this thing? Do you really want me to sit here and explain why I just do not like how this is just an insult to Star Wars? Like, you just look at the footage. That's enough explained. I really do not want to talk about this. 36th place is Ewoks Caravan of Courage. And again, do I really need to explain why this is bad? Well, I guess I do. This is more or less infamous example of a bad Star Wars movie. Now, it is a Star Wars movie, but not a good one, because it was stretched really long to fit a deadline that realistically it shouldn't happen. This was supposed to be a half-hour special, but it was stretched into an hour and a half, and you can really tell by the middle portion that it was really stretched. And this could have been a fun half-hour special, but no, it sucks. Don't watch it. 35th place is Droids. And yeah, this was actually lowered. I lowered this because as more I thought about the show, the more I was like, this show sucks. The only reason why this is third from last and not dead last is this would 100% be last place. This is worse than the holiday special, but the only reason why this is above the other two spots, the only reason why is because at least they're going to different planets. That is the only thing I can give this show credit for, that it goes to different planets and explores different alien cultures. Like, it actually is a Star Wars, not just you're on one planet and it's just, you know, that type of crap. No, they're like C-3PO and R2-D2 are going to different planets with different people. You know, that's the only thing I can give this for. This is the worst thing, one of the worst things I've ever watched. 34th place is Ewoks Battle for Endor. This is not unwatchable because it was actually made to be a movie, but it's still kind of bad. If you can get over the way that, you know, these type of movies were made, where this is very clearly not made by George Lucas, but if you can get over that fact, and it's made for little kids, if you can get over that, then it's very somewhat charming. Now, it's still a bad movie, but there is still charm in it. That's what I can give it. It's still charming in a way, a little bit, but it's still bad. 33rd place is the Ewok Show. And the reason why it's here is because it's still a bad show, and it's very clearly made for those, like, it's very 80s. The first season of the show, I like. It explores Ewok culture, and it is actually well made for the time. But the second season completely drops off and basically comes to Smurfs. And that's why it's here. If the second season was actually the same as the first in terms of quality, I would have placed it actually higher. But because it's not, and because, you know, it's an 80s show, it has to sell toys, and it has to be, you know, not, the content is irrelevant. It has to sell the toys, it has to be generic stuff, so it's down here. 32nd place is Forces of Destiny, and yeah, there's nothing to say about it. It's just, it exists. Most people have forgotten about it. It's just a show, or I guess shorts, to sell toys, which I don't think worked out. So it's just something that's forgotten about in the history of Star Wars. But It's not terrible. If you want to watch, you can. It's on YouTube, Disney Plus. It's whatever. 31st place is Young Jedi Adventurers, and yeah, it's a preschool show. I'm a grown man talking about a preschool show, and it's not unwatchable from an adult's perspective. It's not unwatchable. Like, if I was forced to watch this, it wouldn't be the worst thing I've seen. But it's still a preschool show, and so it's trying to teach kids lessons. And so it's not entertainment, it's edutainment. And so on that merit, it does a really good job at that. But in terms of entertainment, not so much. It's most episodes just kind of exist and aren't really that worth watching. Sometimes Yoda shows up, which is fun. Those are the episodes I've seen. And other characters from other Star Wars media do show up, which is cool. Those are some decent episodes, but overall, the show is fine for children, but for adults, it's nothing much there. 30th is Resistance, and Resistance isn't well, the reason why it's a bad show is because, one, it aired on Disney Channel, so it couldn't really be edgy or to the same quality as the other animated shows, and two, the show came out at a really terrible time where the sequel trilogy wasn't completed yet, so the show couldn't, the people who made the show didn't know where to go, so the show got canceled after the second season, which sucks because the show isn't terrible, it's just all those circumstances has made the show bad, and it's kind of difficult to ignore. So that's why it's here, because yeah, it's fine, like the characters are fine, the whole setting is fine, it's just with the outside forces going against it, it kind of just makes the show bad. 29th place is the Clone Wars movie, and the reason why it's here is because the Clone Wars movie isn't terrible. In terms of the content, it's not terrible at all, but the problem is that it shouldn't have been a movie. George Lucas did what he did best and tampered with something that he shouldn't really have tampered with. And the first 4 episodes of the show were turned into a movie, and it really shouldn't have, because the first 25 minutes are really good, but the next 3 episodes or the next rest of the movie are just not great. And if this was just separated, it'd be fine. But no, because the first episode, which is really a point to watch, with Anakin and Ahsoka, then you have the rest of this thing with Jabba. It's very disconnected. That's not how you do it. It's not meant to be a movie, and it suffers because of that. 28, we have The Acolyte, and some people may like where I put this, some people may not like where I put this. The Acolyte, to me, like, I understand where The Acolyte's coming from. Like, I understand what, the people who made the show were trying to do, but it's executed very poorly. Like, if they had someone on the team that could have rewrote the script or made the script more concise, maybe not have 2 backstory episodes far apart from each other, or maybe rearrange those episodes. I'm just giving suggestions, because what it is not great in terms of execution wise. Like I said, I understand what the show's trying to do. It's trying to be profound. It's trying to do all these twists, and they did the twists, but the problem is that it's not executed well, and it comes off very cheesy, very corny, and not believable. And there's a reason why it got canceled, because I do not vibe with this. But if it was done better, then I could have, and it could have been a great show. But the people who made the show, in terms of execution, was not there. So that's why it's here. 27th place, we have Rise of Skywalker, and this is a really big controversial take, putting it in this low. Not really. A lot of people seem to hate this movie, and I do not completely hate this movie, because I think it's fun. It's one of those things where it's so crazy and so different from the rest of the franchise that in a way it's kind of good in its own weird way, but again, you can only watch you can only handle it so much before you realize it's just stupid. It's it doesn't make sense. I'm trying to say, I'm trying to find words to describe this movie, but I can't, because there's nothing to talk about, because the movie has nothing to offer. There's nothing, but at the same time, seeing Rey, Finn, and Poe together for the first time, it's the last movie in the trilogy, seeing them together is cool, and the action scenes are cool, but there's no story and there's no real oomph. So I like the characters, but that's about it, really. 26 with EA Star Wars Battlefront 2 campaign. I'm only talking about the single player, not the multiplayer. The single player is canon, just to let you know, just to make things clear here. But the single player campaign it could have been great. It could have been really good, but the problem was that they did a bait and switch where the main character Aiden, for the first couple of missions, she's part of the Empire, then switches over to the Rebellion. And after that point, the single-player campaign becomes very generic and not that memorable. The only thing that is memorable are the original trilogy characters like Luke, Leia, Han, Lando, and at the end, Kylo Ren. You can play as all of them. It's really cool. Those missions are the highlights of the campaign, but all the missions after you turn to the good side, because the Empire missions, like at the beginning of the game, are really good as well, and I do replay those once in a while, but in terms of the rest of the story, it's very generic, and if it wasn't generic, and actually, if I hadn't stuck with the Empire, it actually would have been a really good experience, but because of that, it became very generic. 25th, we have Book of Boba Fett, and I've been very vocal about how I do not like the majority of this show. I don't like the first 4 episodes, but I like the last 3 episodes because it connects with Mandalorian. And in order to watch the full experience of Mandalorian, you have to watch the last 3 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett because it features Mando and Grogu, which it shouldn't have, but in retrospect, that's the only reason why you'd be watching the Book of Boba Fett. Maybe Disney was like, oh, we need people to watch this, so let's just bring in those 2 at the end of the show, which works. But for the first 4 episodes, it's not great in my opinion. Boba Fett, they ruined the character of Boba Fett, like they did, and that sucks. You know, Boba Fett in this show is not cool, and that'd be fine if they showed a character change, but they didn't. From the very moment he got out of Sarlacc, he acted the same way throughout the entire thing, and it sucks. It's bad storytelling, and if they would have made have a character change from being the cool bounty hunter to a more heroic figure, that would have been fine, but they didn't do that. 24th is The Last Jedi, and oh boy, The Last Jedi is a very divisive movie, even to this day. Like I said before, in other rankings, I like half this movie, and I don't like half this movie. I really like, as time went on, I really liked the Battle Crate, having Luke show up to be a distraction for the Resistance to leave, and for Rey to be the other Jedi to help them out. It's a really good way, because it's just tied to the Life of Rise of Skywalker, where they do defeat the First Order, and so there is connection there, those small bits of it. But everything else, like everything was the Poe storyline, just confusing and bad storytelling, and this movie at points give you headaches. At the same time, I can see the potential in this, and I can see why people would like this. And there are things I do like. Like, it's so weird how I go from, oh, I like this, to not like this, to like this, to not like this. As I'm watching it, it is so weird. 23rd is Outlaws, and I'm only talking about the main story of Outlaws. I should just cover that right away. I'm not talking about the DLC here. But Outlaws, overall, the main story is a pretty generic story, where it's basically just a heist mission to steal from a rich guy. But the difference is that the character of Kay Vess becomes more interesting as the game goes on. In the beginning of the story, she's very dull and boring and just whatever, but as the story goes on, she becomes more likable. Like, you do like her as a person, because she's funny and with certain scenarios, and she does have a couple of badass moments, but besides those moments, the story is just very generic. Would I have liked it to be more interesting? Yeah, but I understand for the sake of the game why a story is like that, but when you really break it down, I mean, the only thing you can really talk about is like the ending, which I'm not really gonna spoil because other people haven't played the game, or maybe are gonna play the game. But the ending of the game, in terms of the main villain and that type of stuff, it is interesting. Like, the end of the story is interesting, but it's not enough to save the rest of the story. 22nd place, we have the Ahsoka series. Now, this show is not terrible, but the first 3 episodes are quite boring and not my style. I think it's just very generic, standard Star Wars stuff. Now, episode 4 onwards, where the good stuff comes in. And overall, I do like the Ahsoka show. Now, I mean, a complaint you can have is that it's not really meant for, like, the casual fan. Like, just when that watch the animated shows, they're gonna have more appreciation for it. But at the same time, the characters of Ahsoka and Sabine kind of get reset Because if you watch Rebels and the Ahsoka show, it's like two different characters, which is annoying because I hate when shows do that. But the show did it, but I understand why for the character arc to go through in the show, but it's not really consistent with the character. And to me, I don't like that. But overall, I do like the show overall. I love the references to the Clone Wars, the other animated shows. It's cool, but it's not intrusive. Baylan Skoll is a great character, and it's a highlight. And overall, I do like the show. 21st is Tales of the Empire, and this got bumped down my rankings because as time went on, I realized that's not really it's a good show, it is, but it's not really fun in a way, or in the way that I would see other shows where it's more about the lore than the actual, trying to tell an interesting story or using the Star Wars world to tell stories. It's a very straightforward thing about Bear Zoffy and Morgan Elsbeth. You want to know their lore, you want to know their backstory. Well, I guess for Bear Zoffy, it's more what happened after the Clone Wars. But still, it's very straightforward. We're just learning about lore, and that's good and all. But it's not really fun. You're just watching events play out, and it's not really trying to be different. It's just trying to be standard Star Wars stuff. That's not a bad thing. 20th place leaves the Kenobi show, and over the years I actually found more appreciation for this because what I enjoy. The dynamic between Obi-Wan and Vader is great. Having Hayden Christensen reprise the role as Anakin is great. Having him be as Anakin for scenes is great. But the things I don't like are Reva, the character, kind of feels like an afterthought, and she's not really a villain. The show portrays her as a villain. She's not really a villain. She's more of an anti-hero, and you only get to see her being an anti-hero until the last episode, because for the entire show she's a villain, but she's not. Vader's a villain, and the show should put more emphasis on Reva being an anti-hero more than a villain, but that's in the past, and you can't really do anything about that now. 19th place, we have Solo: A Star Wars Story, and over time, with Kenobi, I've found new appreciation for it. Overall, I do really like Solo: A Star Wars Story, because it's just a solid movie. And at the time, I understand people don't like it, but as the years went on, it has become more better. I think as a reflection, the movie is not terrible. Having the origin story of Han meeting Chewbacca and getting Millennium Falcon meeting Lando, that stuff is cool, and it's a fun story. I wish there was more sequels with it, because it could have been a cool trilogy that could have tied into the original trilogy, but nah. All the stories are just in comic books now, which sucks. But I'd like to see Han in this form again, in a movie. I doubt it, but you never know, because it's a fun movie. 18th we have Visions, and I really think that Visions is a show that can go on forever, and who knows if it is or not, I don't know. Currently, as of recording, there's only 2 seasons, both being incredibly different from one another, but that's the thing that's so great about Visions, that every episode is different, every season's different. Season 1 is more anime themed, while Season 2 is more, around the world, and different animation styles doing their own thing, which is really cool. I really like that. And I like a lot of the episodes in Visions. Now, that's something I don't really care about because it's not my thing, which is fine. It's all different animation styles, different ways of storytelling. I'm not gonna like all of it. So Visions is a very interesting show that, if you haven't seen it yet, I would recommend you watch. 17th place, we have the Clone Wars micro series, and this is not the 3D anime one, it's a 2D anime one, just to make things clear. And over time, I really do enjoy this micro series. Now, the reason why I enjoy it is because it's cool. It's cool for sake of being cool, and not so much the lore or the dialogue or the storytelling. It's more just, we want to see cool things happening. This is what it is, because I do not consider this canon. Even back when it first came out, I wouldn't even consider it canon, because it's just, if you do you want to see Mace Windu fighting thousands of battle droids with his bare hands? Do you want to see Obi-Wan fighting a tentacle alien creature that I forget the name of? Do you want to see General Grievous being an absolute menace and scaring the Jedi with his footsteps? Like, that's the type of stuff that only the micro series has, and they can only experience in this thing, and that's why it's so cool. 16th is The Force Awakens, and a big reason why this is here is nostalgia. This is the first Star Wars movie from Disney, and it's a big deal, and it should be. I hate that people start forgetting this movie, because it's a good movie. People like to hate on it because it's part of the sequel trilogy, but I enjoy it because it's a good movie about how, if you look at Finn and how he was a stormtrooper, and how he was this faceless stormtrooper, but then he, at the end of the movie, he gets to fight Kylo Ren, even though he does get knocked out. Still, having a random stormtrooper fight the main antagonist and seeing his journey to that is cool. And it does set up the characters of the sequel trilogy very well with Rey, Finn, Poe, and it is a good setup. Now, people would look at this movie more fondly if The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker weren't the way they were, and if they actually follow through with a lot of things The Force Awakens set up, then yeah, people would like The Force Awakens more, but as it stands, I really do enjoy it. 15th, we have Tales of the Jedi, and I really like the shorts. Now, the reason why I like them is because of the Dooku stories. The Dooku stories are the reason why it's here. The Ahsoka stories, yes, they're good, but we already see enough of Ahsoka. We don't need to see more. We want to see Ahsoka as a baby, go ahead, but no one cares. But the Dooku stories are very good. They're consistent. You can watch all three, and it tells a story, the backstory, what you know about Count Dooku when he was a Jedi, and why he left the Jedi Order. And they do it in such a way that's so concise and simple. It's a simple thing, but it's very concise, and it's good storytelling where you don't need to read all these books to explain why Dooku left or know why, because these three shorts do the job. But yeah, I just like Tales of the Jedi. 14th, we have Jedi Fallen Order, and I did separate this from Survivor because I just want to talk about these games individually. So Fallen Order is a really interesting story of everyone in the game dealing with trauma. Like, you have Cal, Seer, Marin, Greaves, even BD1. They all deal with trauma in their own ways, from their own past, their own individual past. They all come from different backgrounds. Well, Cal and Seer aren't, but, well, it's technically, but the same thing. They're both Jedi, but anyways, they're all coming from different backgrounds, and they all come together to heal from their trauma and become better people from it. That's what Fallen Order is about, dealing with their trauma in a positive way, and at the end of the story, they all come out as better people. 13th is Rogue One, and Rogue One is an awesome movie. It is the best Disney Star Wars movie because it's its own thing. The characters in it are great, they're amazing, and yeah, the first two acts of the movie aren't particularly exciting the first time you watch it. Like, it is confusing. It's like the first time you watch it, but the more you rewatch it, the more you get to appreciate what it is and how awesome it is, because this is a companion to A New Hope. Like, you can watch this by itself, but with A New Hope, it becomes like this complete package that you didn't know you wanted, but it exists. 12th place is Jedi Survivor, and Jedi Survivor does what Fallen Order does, but much better. Survivor is, in terms of storytelling, way more better at it. Like, the story of Survivor is so cool because everything flows very naturally, where you have Cal at the beginning of the game, he's on Coruscant, and when his team goes to crap, he returns to Greaves, he finds Greaves, and that leads into the whole High Republic stuff, and you fight Dagon Gera, and you meet up with Seer and Marin. Like, everything has like a flow to it, and it's so cool. Like if you take the gameplay out of it and just watch the cutscenes, it does feel like a very long extended movie, but it's really good, and that's why I love Survivor. And even Fallen Order, I love both these games. And like I said, I did want to separate these two because I really want to talk about both of them individually. And so Survivor is the better story, because even with the twist of the game, which I'm not going to spoil, because if you haven't played it yet, I would recommend you play the game or you watch the cutscenes. I'm not going to spoil the actual twist, but it's such a well-done twist, where if you were to replay the game again, it's there in front of your face, but you just don't see it. And it is so cool. 11th place is The Mandalorian, and I'm covering the entire 3 seasons of The Mandalorian here. They're all good. Now, the first 2 seasons are amazing, while season 3, isn't the best, but it's still decent. Like, season 3, ironically, is the most Mandalorian season, as most episodes focus on Mandalorian stuff. Yeah, that's like the worst season, with the other two not really focusing on Mandalorian stuff all that much. Like, it's very ironic. But the main reason why The Mandalorian is great is because Din Djarin and Grogu are the best duo that's come out of Disney Star Wars. Like, they are the powerhouse. There's the reason why they're making a movie about them, why they have 3 seasons, why they hijacked the Book of Boba Fett. Like, the reason why they are the mascots of Disney Star Wars is because they are well done characters. They're interesting, they're great, they're cool to see together. So The Mandalorian is a really great show, and it's a standard of not only Disney Plus, but also Star Wars in general. The Mandalorian would not be Star Wars would not be the same without The Mandalorian. So it has a place as high. 10th place is Andor, and what can I say about Andor? Because I feel like I have nothing really to say, because I don't know what else to be said, really, because Andor is just a really, really good show, because the people who are making it know what they're doing, and it's a really solid show. And among the Disney Star Wars content that we've gotten, this is among one of the best that has been produced, because it's just so good. But the thing I like most about Andor is how, as a show, or I guess a season progresses, you have all the characters that are introduced, and the show goes on, the creator of the show can just freely move these characters around, like a checkerboard or a chessboard. This show is like a chessboard, and all these characters can move you around freely to one place or another, because at the end of the season, he merges all the chess pieces together into one climactic event. 9th place is The Bad Batch, and The Bad Batch wrapped up the entire show, 3 seasons, and I love all 3 seasons. It's really good. Like, The Bad Batch, from start to end, it's just one solid show. Now, is it groundbreaking? No, but I really, really like it. I like all the characters. I like Omega and the Bad Batch and their interactions with one another, how they become this family. It's basically what Star Wars is all about, self-made family. And the Bad Batch excels at that, and how it continues on the Clone Wars, and how you can watch the Clone Wars, and then the Bad Batch just right after, and it's like nothing has changed, and it's so cool. And how this is just a staple of Star Wars animation, of how it just continues to work the Clone Wars, but it's still its own thing, and you can watch it by itself and still have a conclusive story. 6th place is Rebels, and as time went on, I really enjoyed Rebels, because when I first started watching the show, I was like, what's the big deal? But as I kept watching the show for the first time, and as it been sitting in my brain all this time, I realized how great Rebels is. Like, I really like the Ghost Crew. I do. Like, they're a self-made family, like the Bad Batch, except with the Rebels actually is done way more better, because, you know, the Bad Batch is just voiced by one person, while Rebels is voiced by a whole plethora of talented voice actors who really work well off each other. And that's not to deduct points from the Bad Batch, no, it's much more authentic when you have all these different voice actors collaborating together and working off each other, and you can really see that. And, you know, yes, this is meant for, like, I'm putting in quotes, children. That's more like the first half of season 1 is mainly like kid-centric, like just for kids. Like the entire show is meant for all ages and for the families, because it's funny, it's serious, it has its moments. But overall, from an episode basis, it's just a really cool show to watch. These characters in the Star Wars galaxy doing missions for the Rebels, Jedi stuff. It's just cool to watch these characters do things, and that's why it's placed this high, because I really like watching these characters do things. 7th place is Attack of the Clones, and God, I remember when I placed this thing all the way down at the bottom. Oh, good old days. I appreciate this movie a lot. I do. Even though, yes, a lot of people say this is the worst prequel film, it's not unwatchable. Very clearly, it's number 7 for crying out loud to me. So I really like it, because what the movie is trying to tell is trying to explain how the Clone Wars started and how Anakin and Padme fell in love. Now, did it exceed with that? With the start of the Clone Wars, yes, but with Anakin and Padme love story, I mean, depending on each person, it worked or it didn't. For me, as time went on, I'm like, I understand what George Lucas was trying to do, but it could have been executed better. But that's not to say that it doesn't work, because it does to a certain extent. Number 6 is The Phantom Menace, and I like The Phantom Menace, I really do. It feels like an event. The Phantom Menace is an event. Even though it doesn't seem like an event when you watch it, it is an event. Like, seeing all these things play out, Jedi, and you have to take the Queen, and they go to Tatooine, and at the end of the movie, they fight Darth Maul. It's like, there's all this cool stuff, all these unique and diverse characters with Jar Jar. You have this, Anakin as a child, and it's like all these ideas that, yeah, don't all work, but it sets up stuff for future media. And for me, who grew up with this, I really enjoy this, and looking back on it, it's really cool. Like, as an adult watching this, there are parallels to the real world that I like. I'm not going to say here because YouTube's going to, blacklist this video probably, but I'm not going to say any real world stuff here, but there are, and it's so cool to see. The Phantom Menace started the prequel era, and it basically started off with a bang, like a really, really huge bang that culturally changed the world forever. Fifth place, we have Return of the Jedi. And what can I say about Return of the Jedi? Because I feel like I've said everything I want to say about Return of the Jedi in my previous ranking videos, because I don't really have anything much to add to it. It's just a really good movie, and it's a good conclusion to not only the original trilogy, but the saga. Like, it's not one of those things where the movie is just like, oh, you need to see the other movies first. I mean, you can, but you can watch Return of the Jedi by itself and still feel like it's a conclusive ending, and it's also a good movie. So, that's why I love it so much. Fourth place is the Clone Wars show. Yes, the Clone Wars show. This is one of the best 3D animated shows based off an existing franchise I've ever seen. What this show did to the Star Wars lore and franchise is one of the best things ever. Even looking at the present day, you look at the Ahsoka show, how much influence that has from the Clone Wars show. And everything animated is originated from the Clone Wars show. This is the origin of everything that is going on in the Mandoverse, all the animated stuff, like everything. This is the origin. It's so much fun. I love the anthology approach to this show because it makes so much sense. You don't need to know all these other shows and movies. All you need to know is that you need to watch the prequels. Actually, more specifically, all you need to do is watch The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. That's all you need to watch before watching the Clone Wars. Hell, I can be more specific. All you need to do is watch Attack of the Clones. Actually, all you need to know is that there's just a war going on, the Clone Wars. All you need to know before watching the show, and that's it. You don't need to know anything else. All the references and all the callbacks are good additions, but they're not holding any episode back. So the Clone Wars is a staple in history of Star Wars. It's one of the best things ever in Star Wars, and I absolutely love it. Third place is Revenge of the Sith. Oh boy, the big movie. Now, if I were to have ranked this a while ago, like when I was a child, I'll put this number 1. I absolutely love Revenge of the Sith because of how it ties into everything of the saga, of the complete saga, the George Lucas stuff, and how it just is the ultimate conclusion. And if this was the last Star Wars movie to have been released, then I, like everyone else, would have been satisfied with it, because it is a very satisfying ending. It's a very tragic ending for the characters. This movie changed the way I think everyone sees Star Wars, and what a Star Wars movie could be. Because a Star Wars movie, yes, is fun, it's exciting, and I do enjoy that. But having something more darker, more heavy on the political stuff, more exploring the galaxy, and how this movie is a galaxy-wide event. Like, what happens in the movie, like Order 66, The Rise of the Empire, affects the galaxy forever. This movie's God tier, it always will be, and I don't think it'll never leave this spot. Second place is A New Hope, and I don't have much to say about A New Hope because I feel like I've said everything I want to say about it, because it's not, like, I mean, I was about to say that it wasn't a good movie, but like, it's second place. Like, it is a god tier movie. It's the start of Star Wars. Without this movie, there will be no Star Wars, because I really love how this movie is structured. I do, because everything is slowly introduced to you from someone who's never seen Star Wars before. This is a great first step. I don't understand why other movie franchises don't do the approach that Star Wars did. Whenever you have a new franchise, they always just throw you into the action, and just you're always left confused, and it's convoluted sometimes. But with A New Hope, it's very simple, down to the basics. Anyone can understand it. Good guys are the rebels, bad guys the Empire. The Empire has a Death Star, they want to blow up planets. Such a simple and effective way, using visual storytelling to explain to the audience what's going on. And that's why Star Wars is the franchise and conglomerate that it is now, because of how successful the storytelling was in A New Hope. And of course, number one is The Empire Strikes Back. This movie isn't just the greatest Star Wars thing of all time. No, it's one of the greatest movies of all time. I'll put it up there with the greats, and a lot of people have as well. The Empire Strikes Back is a pretty much flawless movie that I can't really criticize. As much as I watch it as an adult, I can't really say anything negative about it. What this movie achieved is the impossible, making a sequel that not only is as good as the original, but better than the original. Possibly the biggest plot twist in cinema, which is, the whole "I'm your father" thing. That is the greatest plot twist I've ever seen. Having this major plot twist in the middle of the trilogy works so well, and having the characters just lose. That's such a foreign concept. Having the characters lose is such a foreign concept back then. And nowadays, it is sort of a common thing. You see heroes lose all the time in sequels. But The Empire Strikes Back does it very well, because it's not a obvious loss for the heroes. Even though we know what happens because we've been rewatching this movie for decades now. I've watched The Empire Strikes Back hundreds and hundreds of times. They're always gonna lose. And that's what's so great about it. This movie's so rewatchable, yet it's so tragic at the same time. That is the ranking is finally complete. I've talked about everything that I've reviewed, and these rankings are so fun to do. I like doing them, and I hope you like watching it as well. And I do apologize if I did quickly cover your favorite show, movie, video game. I'm sorry if I just quickly covered it. There's a lot of things here to rank, and me trying to, fully explain, talk about every little thing, about every little show, movie, video game, it would take hours, and I don't think you want to sit through that. So sorry if some of the rankings are a bit shorter than the others. But nevertheless, I'm so satisfied with the video. So if you guys enjoyed, hit the like button, subscribe, I'm gonna go now. So goodbye, everyone.